This question is about factor theorem, although I don't really need to know the factor theorem to answer part A because everything is given to me. So they're telling me that f of 5 should equal 0. So that's basically saying if I substitute 5 into that function, so 5 cubed plus 5 squared plus 5 times p plus q, that should give me an answer of 0. Okay, so the 5 cubed plus the 5 squared give me 150. And that equals 0. So I'll leave that like that for now and wait to see how I want to rearrange it. And that obviously is factor theorem, because if that equals 0, it's basically telling me that x minus 5 is a factor, but we don't really need to use that until part B. So it's also telling me that when I substitute minus 3 in, so minus 3 all cubed plus minus 3 squared plus minus 3 times p plus q, and that equals 8. So that's not factor theorem because it equals 8 rather than 0, but I can still use it in the same way. So if I rearrange that and make it equal to 0, so minus 27 plus 9 minus 8 ends up with minus 26 minus 3p plus q. So there's then a variety of ways I can solve those simultaneously. The way I've got mine lined up, I'm just going to subtract them because I've got a plus q on the end of both of them. So I'll rewrite that one. Okay, and it doesn't really matter which way round I go. Sorry, they should both equal 0. So I would actually do 1 take away 2. So 150 minus 26, 5p minus 3p, q minus q is gone, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So there's quite a few different ways you might rearrange that to solve. So the way I've got it, I'm going to end up with 8p equals minus 176, and then if I divide through by 8, I get p equals minus 22, and then as always with simultaneous equations, don't forget to find the second value. So I can go and pick whichever one of these, so I think I'll use that one. So 150 plus 5 times p plus q is 0, which gives me q is minus 40. Okay, right, so then it wants me to factorize completely. So if I write that function out again, but with those values of p and q that I've just worked out. Okay, so what did we say? So we said p was minus 22 and q was minus 40. Right, so I know that x minus 5 is a factor. Okay, so I know that from that statement there. So I know that I want to divide through by x minus 5. You can do that in a variety of ways. You can do the reverse grid method. You can write down the long division. You can do it by inspection. So if it's x minus 5 that's the factor, so that must be an x squared term to get the x cubed. The constant on the end must be plus 8, so that I get the constant of minus 40. And then I can just look at one of the other terms. So my x squared term is just supposed to be 1x squared. So I've currently got minus 5x squared. So I'm going to need plus 6x, so that altogether my x squared term is plus x squared. I can just double check that works with the x term as well. So that's going to give me minus 30x plus 8x, which does give me minus 22x. Okay, but you can lay that out in a variety of different ways. Reverse grid method I know is popular, writing down the algebraic long division. Okay, so it just says factorized completely, so there's no indication of whether that is fully factorized or whether it goes to 3 factors, so we just need to have a look at that quadratic, and that quadratic does factorize itself to x plus 4, x plus 2. Okay, and then just make sure for your final answer you've got the full function written, fully factorized, including f of x equals. We don't need to say what the values of x are because it hasn't told us to solve it and set it equal to 0. So that's my final answer.